Today, we're going to be talking about a crucial topic for anyone looking at buying a small business. How to make sure you don't overpay for that business. We'll cover some common pitfalls and how to avoid them. Let's dive in. After watching this video, you'll know the biggest mistakes and how to avoid them. Hi, my name's Trent Lee. I've sold over 600 businesses, and for the last 6 years in a row, I've been named the #1 business broker in the country for the most closed transactions per year, and I make these videos so that one day you'll reach out to me so that I can help you through the buying or selling process of a small business. Number 1, weighting the valuation. First, be cautious about basing a valuation entirely on the most recent year, especially if it's a best ever performance year. This might seem like a good idea because it looks like the business is doing well, especially while it's growing, but it could be an outlier. Look for a longer time frame to get a more accurate picture. Ideally, I like to see 3 to 5 years and take a weighted average. Number 2, inappropriate seller discretionary earning addbacks. Let's talk about SDE addbacks. These adjustments are normal, but they need to be provable, legal, and clearly an owner benefit that won't be necessary for you as the buyer. I'll give you a perfect example. Be wary of something like fuel expense without proper documentation. Maybe the wife and the kids have a gas card that's run through the business and they're trying to add that all back. How do you differentiate between the gas needed for the family and the gas used by the business? So be careful with those addbacks. Number 3, inappropriate adjustments. Similar to addbacks, normalizing adjustments can be tricky. For example, a large one-time expense might be added back, but consider if this is truly a one-time expense. If it's something like new paint or fixtures that need to be replaced regularly, factor that into your projections. Maybe they're not an add-back if it's something that happens every couple of years. Number 4, lack of rent adjustment. I see this mistake often. Don't overlook the fair market rate adjustments to the rent. If the current owner has a sweetheart deal on a rent, you need to know what the market rate is. If you're going to be paying more, then recast the financials to reflect the current fair market rent. This is especially important for owner-occupied properties where the owner or the business owner owns the real estate and is not paying themselves any rent or is paying their rent way too low. Number 5, multiples that are too high. Be cautious if the multiple used to value the business is higher than average. A higher than average multiple can be justified if the business has recurring revenue, higher margins, or some sort of special advantage that really justifies it. If not, a premium multiple is likely inappropriate and is just a pipe dream from the seller or the seller's broker. Number 6, this is a big one I see all the time, misapplying EBITDA multiples. Understand the difference between EBITDA and SDE. Some brokers might try and use EBITDA multiples on what are actually SDE figures to inflate the price. Make sure you know the difference and you can look and know how and which multiple should be applied. Ideally, there should be an EBITDA figure and an SDE figure. They won't be the same, and each one of them should have an appropriate multiple to use. Number 7, not accounting for rising interest rates. Interest rates have been rising, and this could affect the cost of the debt. When brokers model an ROI or debt coverage ratio, make sure they account for current interest rates. If they're modeling something that was true with the SBA 6 months ago, that might be completely different. Without doing this properly, you could end up with a misleading picture of the business's financial health because your debt service ratio is going to be too low. Number 8, valuation using projections or pro forma. Be wary of a valuation based on future projections or discounted cash flow, DCF methods. These are often used for larger companies and aren't typical or appropriate for small businesses. Focus on historical financials instead. You will want to buy a business because it has future growth potential, but don't pay for a business based on future potential. Pay based on historical performance. Number 9, owners working more than full-time. I run into this a lot. I find business owners who are working 60, 70 hours in their own business. If the owner works more than 40 hours a week, their entire pay should not be added back. SDE is based on one full-time owner working 40 hours a week. If they work 70 hours a week, you need to adjust their pay accordingly and factor in fair market wages to have someone help with those additional hours. Number 10, multiple owners working in the business. Similar to the previous point, if there are multiple owners working in the business, only the highest paid owner's compensation should be added back. Adjust the others to market compensation levels or fair market wages for the amount of time that they put in based on what their role is. Number 11, family members who are working for free or cheap in the business. Family members working for free or at a reduced rate can distort the true cost of running the business. Make sure that you adjust for market rate wages for the family members who are working in the business. Once they leave, you're going to have to replace them at fair market wages, so factor that in. Next, number 12, look closely at the cost of goods sold. Supply chain issues have affected many businesses recently, and you need to ensure that you can get supplies at the same prices as the seller. Rising costs can impact your margins, and if you find yourself buying a business that no longer has access to the same products, the same services that the seller had, all of a sudden your cost of good margins can be out of whack, thus affecting the profitability of the business. Number 13, other seller advantages that don't convey at the time of the sell. Some seller advantages, like personal goodwill, might not transfer to you. For example, if the seller has a strong personal brand that drives the business, you might not be able to replicate that. You need to be aware if the business is overly dependent on the seller and his personality or his contacts. 14, exclusion from the asset list. Check what's excluded from the asset list. Sometimes items that help the business generate revenue are left out. Make sure that when you're in your due diligence period, you get a clear and concise list of assets that are and are not included in the business. You need to make sure that everything that's vital to the operations of the business is really included. 15, last year being their best year. If you see a significant increase in earnings in the last year, ensure it's sustainable. Sometimes sellers boost earnings before selling the business to get a higher price by clearing out old inventory or other games that they're playing just to have a one-time good year right before they sell. Next, beware of stimulus adjustments. I often see that people, small business owners who don't do this accurately, put the PPP as income on their financials. These should be properly accounted for and adjusted or pulled out and should not be counted as income on the financial statements. Number 17, cherry picking the comps. When using the sales comparable or market multiples, make sure that the broker hasn't cherry-picked the highest and best multiples only. Run your own comps and focus on ROI to get the true valuation. Number 18, not accounting for working capital or CapEx. Finally, always budget for capital expenditures. Sellers often add back depreciation, but forget to account for the equipment replacement. Eventually, you're going to have to replace that equipment. Look out for deferred maintenance as well. By keeping these points in mind, you can avoid overpaying when buying a small business. Always do your due diligence and don't be afraid to ask the tough questions. Thanks for watching and good luck with your business purchase. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this video helpful. Thanks and take care.